All right, let's get started. Let me introduce Christy. When Christy told me her topic, I said, neuro what? I didn't know what neuroeconomics was. I'm sure everybody does, but not me, right? So anyway, it's been really interesting sort of listening to what and reading her proofs and trying to figure out exactly where this was going. And it's actually a quite strong topic here. So Christy says, I would like to thank God, who has helped me throughout the process of writing this thesis, and for surrounding me with supportive people, including Mr. Wade and Miss Maymay, who have been very helpful in offering advice. I would also like to thank my counselor, Ms. Heidi, and all teachers who have helped me to structure this thesis. Lastly, I wanted to thank my family and friends for supporting me and always being there for me. Her title is, I See the Light, How Neuroeconomics Unmasks Financial Flaws. All right, Christy, give me a second to set the timer, and I'll tell you when you can start. All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
I see it, I like it, I want it, I got it. A lyric from Ariana Grande's song ideally represents consumerism in modern days. A woman watches an Instagram live of a luxury handbag. She does not need one urgently. She only does window shopping during her idle moment until the seller announces the final word that she cannot resist. Last day of sale, buy now before the live ends. Suddenly, adrenaline rushes through her veins and her heart races. A sense of urgency triggers the fear of missing out on the bag. Without carefully evaluating the bag quality, the woman presses the purchase button. On the other side of the screen, the seller smiles, confident that her scarcity and urgency strategy has successfully accelerated the purchase. Now, the real question is, does the woman genuinely want the bag, or is the seller triggering her emotions into buying the bag? If manipulation on the subconscious level exists, certainly individuals should be equipped to make more informed financial decisions. Neuroeconomics has its origin in two places: the neoclassical economic revolution in the 1930s and the birth of cognitive neuroscience in the 1990s. At first, economists portrayed individuals as rational agents who maximizes their utility. However, fallacies in this traditional economic theory paved a way for an economic system that is more rooted in psychology. In addition, advances in technology and neuroscientific studies provided deeper insight into the relationship between brain and economic processes. At the same time, weak regulation, digitalization, and post-pandemic stress led to an increase in number of individuals making impulsive decisions. Now, what is neuroeconomics, you might ask? Neuroeconomics is a study that integrates neuroscience, psychology, and economics to relate brain processes to financial choices. Furthermore, the study of Elliot emphasizes the importance of emotions in financial decision-making. Elliot was a sociable and successful businessman. Yet, his tumor removal surgery causes damage in his brain areas that relate emotions with brain processes. As a result, he struggles to determine value to things and spends hours in making simple decisions, such as choosing a pen color or ordering food. Given the understanding of how the brain shapes financial decisions, issues related to impulsive financial decisions require greater attention as more people engage in them. Failure in personal finances could disrupt the national economy by triggering market instability and economic crisis. In the era of digitalization, equipping individuals with neuroeconomics becomes more essential than ever. Furthermore, the optimal age to study the fundamentals of neuroeconomics begins since late adolescence. The development of brain areas, along with the high sensitivity to social and emotional cues, causes adolescents to create more risk-taking and make more impulsive financial decisions for social benefits. In addition, authorities are responsible in building awareness of neuroeconomics to reduce economic burden, conserving up economic resources for national improvement and productivity. With that, individuals should be equipped with neuroeconomics training to make more informed financial decisions for three reasons: to refine traditional economic models to align with observable human behavior, to enhance practical application, and to generate positive ripple effects that extends to the national economy. Firstly, neuroeconomics identifies critical brain processes that refine economic models of observable human behavior, which are not sufficiently covered in conventional economics. To establish this foundation, neuroeconomics reveals that brain processes are measurable. In the past, economic theory was constructed on the assumption that the human brain is immeasurable. However, advances in technology allow neuroscientific studies to be integrated into economic modeling, hence strengthening and refining economic models. For instance, while conventional economic models assumes that decisions across very different things are equally valuable, neuroeconomics shows that some decisions are more complex than others because it involves emotions, moral values, and mental conflicts, such as donating money to a charity or keeping money for ourselves. Next, neuroeconomics explains individuals' mental shortcuts and cognitive biases that drive irrational decisions. While traditional economics has characterized humans as rational agents, neuroeconomics provide evidence that humans are vulnerable to irrational decisions. Individuals prioritize faster, more desirable product rather than long-term gains. For that reason, people use pay later to get faster and more immediately rewarding products. Equally important, neuroeconomics underscores the importance of emotions in economic decision-making. Research discovers that the conventional economic model is incomplete, agreeing that emotions is not optional, but a significant factor in financial decision-making. So, the global financial crisis represents the failure in financial decision-making. At first, economic conditions in the United States and other countries appeared stable and promising. Driven by fear and greed, people are willing to invest in a high-risk investment by borrowing money that they could not initially afford. As a result, when the housing market collapsed, major banks experienced losses because of the high default rates, economic crisis, and millions of people lost their jobs. Secondly, neuroeconomics significantly enhances practical application, which improves outcome in personal finance, business, and other interdisciplinary fields. In the first place, neuroeconomics improves understanding of how the brain perceives reward. Individuals often value immediate gratifications, such as spending, more than future outcomes, such as saving. People are more reluctant to save for their future selves because it feels distant and unfamiliar, as if saving for a stranger. Hence, to encourage delayed gratification, neuroeconomics promote using commitment devices that automatically deduct and transfer salary to a savings account. In an experiment, participants who actively use commitment devices experience a 4-time increase in their average savings rate. Beyond personal finance, neuroeconomics enhances business and marketing strategy by aligning them with consumer preferences. The branch of neuroeconomics relating to marketing is called neuromarketing. Although it carries the risk of exploiting cognitive preferences, however, it can be used to benefit other people with responsibly and transparently. For instance, the Hyundai's application of brain imaging tools appears that premium materials, harmonious shape, and calming color palettes better match consumers' expectations. These findings, along with other forms of market research, contributed to an 18% rise in sales. Most importantly, neuroeconomics improves predictive power in human behavior, thus offering interdisciplinary benefits. Online platforms apply algorithmic feedback to constantly update predictions about user preferences. For instance, Amazon's algorithm guide choices by showing the recommended for you based on former preferences. Thereby, it leads to predicted behavior of faster purchases, which is sometimes aligned with our preferences. Thirdly, neuroeconomics generates positive ripple effects that extend beyond personal finances and household stability to the communities and national economy. Primarily, neuroeconomics strengthens decision hygiene in personal finances. One of the reasons of financial flaw is cognitive bias. Cognitive biases happens because the brain prioritizes speed and efficiency, leading to error and imperfections in financial decision making. Thus, to reduce cognitive bias, neuroeconomics uses debiasing techniques, which present balanced information which are risk warning along with profit opportunities, thus allowing more informed decisions. Moreover, neuroeconomics emphasizes the ethical responsibility in interconnected markets, because decisions are often manipulated by external influences. Engagement in emotions strongly influences people's financial decision because the brain treats them as more important. For instance, marketers leverage last chance to buy or only two left to trigger stress and urgency responses in the brain. Accordingly, neuroeconomics agrees with the necessity of being aware and informed of one's subconscious process before making a decision. To do this, one could apply the 24-hour rule, in which someone waits 1 day before making a purchasing decisions. Ultimately, neuroeconomics creates stronger and more resilient economic environment that support family, community, and local economies. Individuals who are well equipped in neuroeconomics build financial resilience in the personal and communal level. Families who have economic security have enhanced well-being by reduced stress, greater access to education and healthcare, and increased business participation. As a result, measurable indicators such as higher household savings rate, lower default rate, and reduced market volatility contribute to a greater national stability. Despite significant advances brought by neuroeconomics, however, critics argue that societies have had economic systems that function well long before neuroeconomics existed. At first glance, this argument appears convincing. However, neuroeconomics is like getting to a higher level in a game. At first, maybe simpler tools are sufficient to win to the next stage. However, in more intermediate levels, more advanced tools are required to pass the stage. In conclusions, societies that thrive before neuroeconomics does not mean it is lacking in value, but an advancement in financial decision-making. Another common objection is that neuroeconomics' ability to utilize human vulnerabilities, which is the subconscious mind, to generate impulsive decisions leads to skepticism regarding unethical marketing practices. Neuroeconomics is best understood as a morally neutral tool. Like a knife sold in a kitchen store, it can be used to improve efficiency in the kitchen or cause harm in the wrong hands. However, the possibility of misuse does not justify prohibiting knives altogether. Instead, people are taught proper handling, safety, and responsibility. By design, neuroeconomics is beneficial, especially when guided with transparency and consumer-centered marketing. Nonetheless, neuroeconomics insight could be exploited through manipulative marketing. The solution is not rejection, but education. By understanding mechanisms that influence our decisions, we are no longer become passive targets, but informed financial decision makers who are capable of protecting ourselves and maximizing the benefits of neuroeconomics. Throughout this paper, we have explored reasons why individuals should be equipped with neuroeconomics training to make more informed financial decisions, starting from refining traditional economic models to enhancing practical application in personal finances, business, and other interdisciplinary fields. Finally, we analyzed the neuroeconomics benefit that extend from personal finances to a broader economic scale. Let's circle back to a story of a woman with her luxury handbag. She still scrolls through Instagram during her free time. However, her mindset has changed after receiving neuroeconomics training. The next time the seller triggers the false urgency strategy, she no longer buys product impulsively. Instead, she waits for 24 hours to eliminate purchasing decisions because of external influences. Now, how does this apply to ordinary people? Instead of waiting for the ship to come in, people could start to equip themselves with neuroeconomics training provided by free and accessible online courses. Then, this neuroeconomics insight should be combined with active reflection and practical implementation. Lastly, there's a significant number of people who haven't heard about their emotion-based and biased decisions. Therefore, sharing neuroeconomics insights will help them to create a more responsible and reliable economic environment where people are confident and informed of their financial decisions. On a final note, align with values, not emotions. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Good job. Our panelists today are Mr. Rio and Miss Anita. Let's start with Mr. Rio.
Okay, Christy. Thank you for your thesis. It was actually quite interesting, to have this topic. Me myself is a person who is interested in economic. So, but I'm actually quite curious when I'm listening to your thesis. When you're stating that individuals in your thesis, the first thing, whom are you mentioning to? Is it all people with all backgrounds, or just some part of the people in the society?
Okay, so the optimal people who I want to reach in my thesis is particularly begins from late adolescence because their development of brain areas along with high sensitivity to social and emotional cues make them to take more risks and make more impulsive decisions. And that's why I want to reach them to make more deliberate and informed decision making.
So your starting point of creating awareness or teaching or educating is starting from the adolescent stage.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when I read your thesis, actually I read some findings regarding adolescents. There has been findings that adolescents in all the world and in some particular countries have been trouble with managing their own what we call as emotional intelligence. And then we know that by doing this, because you said that one of the problems is emotion in neuroeconomics, or one of the major why people buy things is one of them is emotion. Do you think that for adolescents, we need to uh, educate them emotional intelligence first or neuroeconomics first to these adolescents? Because we know that uh, emotional intelligence, or how they manage emotions, is part of the burden or part of the problem that they face nowadays.
Thank you, Mr. Yo, for your question. So I think people can start equipping themselves with neuroeconomics because it involves neuroscience, psychology, and economics. And that's why for emotional intelligence, we particularly only study about the psychological sides. However, in neuroeconomics, we can reach all of the sides. And that's why it's more important to learn about neuroeconomics.
So neuroeconomics will we will learn all things, even like emotional aspects of adolescence.
It's not really about all aspects of life because it is particularly more focused on the financial side. However, it also equips them with some sort of emotional intelligence.
Okay, okay. Thank you for your answer. Now, that's a good answer actually. It means you understand the topics well. Now, let's continue ya regarding the individuals itself or the adolescents. I was curious about this thing, backgrounds. That's every adolescents or individuals has different backgrounds, has different problem, or even family background, educational background, or even financial background. This actually somehow it might hinders how they perceive knowledge, how perceive knowledge, even when you said that this studies is an upgrade or a way more complex than the basic studies. How would you educate the needs of neuroeconomics to all kinds of people with different family background, or educational background, or even financial background?
Okay, thank you, Mr. So I'm gonna start from comparing financial literacy with neuroeconomics. While financial literacy teaches us what to do, neuroeconomics teach us why we struggle to do certain things, such as budgeting or investing. It is because humans' natural tendency to undervalue future rewards over long-term gains. And that's why, with equipping individuals with neuroeconomics, people will realize more about their emotion-based and biased decision, which creates them to make more informed financial decisions.
Okay, I think that's from me. Thank you.
All right, Miss Anita.
Okay, Christy. Yep, I agree with Mr. Yo. I think it's very interesting, your topic, and also it's relatable because like people nowadays have problem like at night they're scrolling Shopee and then turns out in the morning already in the basket already sent it to your house. So yeah, I think it's pretty relatable. And so yeah, just onto my first question. Okay, so you're talking about neuroeconomics. Before I start, can you just summarize what is neuroeconomics?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Anita. So, as I mentioned previously, neuroeconomics integrates the study of neuroscience, psychology, and economics to relate economic with brain processes. So, with neuroeconomics, we can realize about our bias and emotion-driven decisions, which helps us to identify our financial flaws.
Okay, thank you. So, my first question: do you familiar with the name Daniel Kahneman, the person who proposed System One and System Two?
Yes.
Okay, so your topic is about this, right? System One, System Two.
Neuroeconomics encompasses System 1 and System 2.
Okay, thank you. So, first of all, how can your brain negotiate the immediate fear response with delayed evaluation of your prefrontal cortex during the volatile event? For example, panic selling. Because in your system one, it will create like danger. So that's why you immediately have the decision to sell whatever investment that you have. So how can you negotiate that with your, better thinking with the neuroeconomics, because it's a danger situation?
Are you asking how neuroeconomics will help us in during a market crash?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So with neuroeconomics training, we realize that our decisions are influenced by emotions. And sometimes when we are in a panic attack, we are activating our brain fight or flight response. And that's why sometimes we're making decisions that are more focused on our immediate effect more than our long-term financial goals. And with neuroeconomics, we can stop for a while and then we can allow more deliberate thinking so that we can make decisions that is totally aligned with our financial goals and not only our current emotions.
Okay, but you know that to switch between like immediate danger and then to think about long term, you cannot just turn your brain like that. So, yeah, based on what you're saying, by the education given in the neuroeconomics, you can prevent that from happening.
Yes.
Okay. You also talk about addiction, right? And then you propose a 24-hour wait time. Yeah. How can it help like addictive people? Because like it's only 24-hour. Meanwhile, their addiction is like years.
Okay, thank you, Miss Anita. So about addiction and 24-hour rule is actually a different approach. So for the 24-hour rule, it is for impulsive buying, while for addiction, such as gambling, it needs neurofeedback in which someone with they train their impulsive self and risk-taking decisions to be more deliberate. In a study, it shows that neurofeedback could decrease 61% of individuals' impulsive decision making because it contributes to self control.
Okay, so can you explain how? I mean, I don't, because this is new thing also for me.
Okay.
How does it look like neurofeedback? What do you do? Like also educated thing, or what?
So in the courses, there's like a training to regulate our impulsive and risk-taking self. And we do some active reflection as well and practical implementation. As a result, individuals become more self-controlled.
Okay, I think that's a good thing also to add if you have time to add. I don't know. Do you have revision? Maybe no. Maybe yeah. Okay. So all right, that's a good thing to add actually. Next. All right. So you say that neuroeconomics improve personal autonomy, correct?
Yes.
However, inside your thesis, you also say that about um, the technology that will help you, like the bank deduction,
Yes.
correct? Okay. So I think it's a bit contradictory because you say if you have like this education about neuroeconomics, you have better self-control. But
Okay.
like, why you also need this bank deduction and stuff?
Okay, I understand where does it come from. So actually, even though we already have self-control with neuroeconomics training, however, we are still humans and we are vulnerable to irrational decisions. So when we are using commitment devices that automatically deduct and transfer salary, it will help us to eliminate these irrational decisions.
All right, next, continue. Okay. So in your page 14, 4, 5, 17 about neuroeconomics prevent recession and then, it's good for national economics, yada, yada, yada. However, with your 24-hour rules, if, let's just say, hypothetically, everybody does that, okay, it will dramatically cut impulse buying, all right? Isn't it like creating another problem, which is market, it will create modern economic problem because you say modern economic growth is because of consumerism. So when you cut it, it will create, market loss probably. So how do you explain that contradictory?
Okay, so even though when neuroeconomics could reduce people's impulsive decision making, it still could create a more stable economy because now the decision that they make is not based on impulsive decisions, but based on informed ones. So, for instance, when people do online gambling, they do irrational decisions, and it will create and lead to a cycle of addiction, mental health disorders, and criminal activities. However, if they change it into a more informed decisions, for instance, they are reducing their online gambling addiction, it will create, they will make more habits that are more productive and that will also increase business participation.
Okay, let's not talk about the gambling stuff. What about the impulse buying? Because, okay, hear me out. So, in the economic system, there is demand, right? The more people buying, it will be better for the economy because, economic cycle, right? So, however, this neuroeconomics, just like what you say, it will reduce the impulse buying. However, it create problem means that there will be less demand because people are less impulse, right? So,
Okay.
isn't it you create another problem?
Okay, so when people make impulsive decisions, such as using buy now, pay later, it actually could results in economic problems because excessive use of BNPL and unregistered loan, it will makes the credit to be tightened from the banks. And that's why it will create more problems in the future, such as the small business who want to secure their loans to be stalled from national economic improvement.
Sorry, I don't understand. How can pay later as a consumer relates to the seller?
Sorry?
No. You're talking about if we buy stuff using pay later,
Mm-hmm.
it will create problem for the seller?
So if someone is using buy now pay later excessively and it creates a high default rate, it will make the banks to tighten their credit limit. And that's why it will make the small businesses to struggle to secure their loans, which result in a reduce in business activity.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's just move on. Okay. In neuroeconomics, you in the simple terms, you kind of weigh the pro and cons before buying things, right? Like
Yes.
what is the long term, what is the the effect. If let's just say pay later, give more discount for the things that you want, can it be considerably a good decision based on your neuroeconomics?
Yes, it can be a good decision if it is including a high discount because it means that our decision is based on long-term outcomes, which is, for instance, when now it is in discount and later it is not in discount, it means that we buy at lower price and it creates a good benefit for us.
Okay, that's good. Um, little, hold up. Just a little bit suggestion in your, what is the last part? Pero ratio? Yeah, last part, pero ratio. This is in your paper, yeah, but in your speech it's already correct. You mentioned about specific part of family at the dining table. I think that's your previous exordium. Yeah, just make sure to change it with your speech.
Okay.
So I think that's it from me. Thank you.
Okay, good. I have a question for you, Christy. So I was thinking about when you were talking to Miss Anita about like panic in the stock, if the stock market's crashing, right? And I was thinking about 2008 in America, and the investors all over America were panicking, right? And they were all selling. And the problem is that if you were one of those who said, I'm going to wait 24 hours, then you'd lose everything, right? Because everyone's panicking. So how do you deal with that? If you're you know what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Because if I thought that I was smarter than them, so I'm going to wait 24 hours, guess what? I just lost everything because everyone else is panicking and the stock market value is crashing. So what do you think?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reed, for the question. So I think it really depends on the situation. So when everyone else is selling their stock because they're panicking, we can ask modern application technology such as ChatGPT or Gemini to ask if this is really a good decision and base our decisions in more informed ones.
All right, good. And what about, I think I've asked you this once before a long time ago, but these days, websites, even the color of the buy button, people spend a lot of time thinking of the right color for the buy button because it actually has this minuscule impact on how many people click the buy button. Does neuroeconomics help you with that?
Yes, and it's actually including to the marketing manipulation, which is the dark pattern. In dark pattern, they're using confusing layout, misleading colors, or pre-tick boxes to guide a user into accepting tracking cookies. That's why it is something that we need to eliminate.
Hey, very good. Let me see what some of your friends have asked. Yeah, so maybe this is similar to what I said, but isn't the 24-hour method kind of unreliable because there are lots of situations in life where we have to make quick decisions, right? Is that the same thing that I asked earlier, or do you have a different answer?
Yeah, I think it's like similar to your question. So it really depends on the situation.
Okay, very good. Well, we're almost out of time. To what extent, let me read this one. To what extent does neuroeconomics influence individual decision making anyway? Does all individual, are all individuals influenced by would all individuals be influenced by neuroeconomics? I think maybe you answered that, but who is this for? To what extent does neuroeconomics influence individual decision making?
Okay, so based on the data, neuroeconomics intervention could reduce impulsive decision making by 19%. And then using neurofeedback when someone uses their training to regulate risky and impulsive decision making, it will reduce their impulsive decision by 61%. And when they're projecting themselves into the future, 86% of participants are more willing to wait for long-term rewards rather than short-term immediate outcomes.
Okay, very good. Time's up. You've done a great job, Christy. All right, give Christy a hand. Panelist, advisor, friends and family, come meet over here at the banner for a picture.